Do you know who the most dangerous person in the room is right now? It's not the one crying in the corner. It's not the person venting about their terrible day. It's the one laughing the loudest. The life of the party. The friend who checks on everyone else but never gets checked on. Because statistically, that person is often teetering on the edge of a complete and silent mental collapse. Psychologists have a name for this. It's called smiling depression, or clinically, atypical depression, and in brutal, high-pressure environments like Stanford or the Ivy League, it goes by another name, duck syndrome. Picture a duck gliding across a still lake. On the surface, effortless, serene, picture perfect. But beneath the water, those little feet are kicking violently, frantically, relentlessly, just to stay afloat. If you've ever felt like you're playing a character instead of living your actual life, if you've collapsed onto your bed, physically drained after 8 hours of pretending to be okay, or if the thought of someone seeing the real, messy, broken version of you makes your chest tighten with fear, then what I'm about to say might change everything. Over the next 10 minutes, we're going to peel back that mask together. I'll walk you through the neuroscience behind why your brain forces you to smile when every cell in your body wants to scream. We'll uncover the 3 specific stages of this syndrome that most people miss until it's far too late. And I'll reveal the exact psychological shift that can stop you from paddling yourself into oblivion. Because here's the terrifying truth about wearing a mask for too long. Eventually, you forget there was ever a face beneath it. Let's begin. The single most dangerous word in the English language is 4 letters long. Fine. F-I-N-E. How are you? I'm fine. How's work? It's fine. We wield this word like a shield, a tiny, 4-letter fortress we construct in milliseconds to keep people at a safe distance. But have you ever paused to ask yourself why? Why do you feel compelled to perform happiness when you're quietly falling apart inside? Psychology traces this behavior back to childhood or early adulthood. Maybe you were the kid who got praised for being low maintenance. The easy one. The one who never made a fuss. Somewhere along the way, you absorbed a dangerous lesson. Your value to the group depends on your ability to handle things alone, to never be a burden, to always be the strong one. Over time, this calcifies into what psychologists call the performer persona. You become a master at reading the room. You know precisely when to laugh, when to nod, how to project unshakable confidence. Your social media is carefully curated. You show up to every gathering. You're the reliable one. But here's what nobody tells you. This performance isn't free. It comes with a massive biological tax. This brings us to emotional dissonance, the grinding internal conflict between what you actually feel and what you choose to display. Imagine holding a giant beach ball underwater. It takes constant, exhausting effort to keep it submerged. Your arms burn. Your focus narrows to that single task. Relax for even a second, and it rockets to the surface, splashing everyone around you. That's exactly what your brain does every single day. The beach ball is your anxiety, your grief, your bone-deep exhaustion. The water is your social mask. Maintaining this dissonance burns through your brain's glucose reserves faster than solving advanced calculus. This is why you can spend an entire day just smiling and nodding through meetings and stumble home, feeling like you sprinted a marathon. You're not lazy. You're depleted. But here's where it gets darker. And this is the part that genuinely unsettles psychologists. When we picture traditional depression, we often imagine someone who can't leave their bed, someone with no energy, someone who has visibly surrendered. That's called vegetative depression, and the danger is obvious. But smiling depression? High-functioning depression? The danger hides in plain sight. People with this syndrome often have high energy. They're successful, driven. They hold down jobs, maintain relationships, plan vacations, they execute. And that precise combination, searing internal pain paired with high external functioning, is a recipe for tragedy. It's why we so often hear that haunting phrase after a suicide. I had no idea. She seemed so happy just yesterday. The brain of someone with smiling depression is trapped in a state of hypervigilance. Your amygdala, the threat detection center, is blaring alarm bells around the clock. You're not safe. You're not enough. You're a fraud. But your prefrontal cortex, the logical, executive part of your brain, keeps overriding those signals with rigid social protocols. Smile, make eye contact, land the joke. It's a civil war inside your skull, and you're losing on both fronts. The worst part? You probably believe you're protecting the people you love by hiding your pain. I don't want to bring them down. I don't want to seem dramatic. So you isolate yourself while surrounded by people. You become the loneliest duck in the middle of a crowded pond. But science reveals something remarkable about human connection. We don't bond over perfection. We bond over vulnerability. Think about the last time you felt truly close to someone. Was it when they described how flawless their life was? No. It was probably when they admitted they were scared, when they confessed they'd messed up. That crack in the armor? That's where the light gets in. So, if you're paddling so hard right now that your legs are cramping and your lungs are burning, I need you to understand something. The lake is not as deep as you think, and you don't have to drown just to keep the surface calm. But how do you actually stop? How do you drop the mask without watching your entire life implode? The answer lies in a counterintuitive, psychological shift, one we're about to explore next. Here's the twist most people miss about the duck syndrome. In nature, ducks don't just paddle alone until they collapse from exhaustion. They fly in V formations. They rotate. When the leader gets tired, they drift to the back of the flock, and another duck takes point, cutting through the wind resistance so the others can conserve energy. They survive not because they're individually invincible, but because they share the burden. If you're suffering from smiling depression, you've probably swallowed a dangerous lie. The lie that your strength comes from your silence. You've convinced yourself that holding it all together makes you good, noble, even. But here's what you're actually doing. You're denying the people who love you the chance to love the real you. You're robbing them of the opportunity to take the lead while you catch your breath. Think about it. You've trained everyone around you to believe you're bulletproof. You've conditioned them to assume you have no needs. And now, you're trapped in a prison of your own construction, one where asking for help feels like a confession of failure. That is the loneliest place in the world to exist. So, here's your challenge. I call it the 10% rule. I'm not asking you to rip the mask off completely today. That's terrifying. I'm not asking you to post a breakdown on social media or have a tearful confession at dinner. I'm simply asking you to lift the mask by 10%. Pick one safe person, just one. Someone who has shown you, even once, that they can hold space without judgment. And the next time they ask how you're doing, instead of the reflexive, "I'm fine," try this. "Honestly, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed today." That's it. You don't need to unpack your entire history. You don't need to solve anything. You just need to break the seal. Because something remarkable happens the moment you speak that small truth out loud. The pressure inside the beach ball releases just a little. Your cortisol levels drop, your shoulders unknot, and you realize, maybe for the first time, that the water didn't swallow you whole. The sky didn't fall. The person across from you didn't run. They leaned in. Real strength was never about how much pain you can hide. It's about how much truth you can handle and how much you're willing to let others handle with you. The mask is heavy. It was never designed to be worn permanently. And putting it down doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. So, to the one who's always checking on everyone else, who's checking on you? To the one who's exhausted from performing a version of yourself that doesn't exist, you're allowed to stop. And to the one who's convinced that falling apart would mean losing everything, sometimes falling apart is how the light finally finds its way in. If this felt like I was reading pages from your own journal, it's because you're not the only one who's been paddling in silence. You never were. And if you're the strong friend, the one everyone leans on, but no one thinks to ask about, you need to watch my next video. I'm going to break down the physical damage that happens to your body when you suppress tears for too long. The science behind crying it out is something 99% of people get completely wrong. And what I found in the research genuinely surprised me. You don't want to miss that one. Subscribing costs you nothing, but what you learn might just save your sanity. I'll see you there.